It's a picture-perfect Memorial Day in the heart of the heartland. Larned, Kansas, a city of 4,060 miles northeast of Dodge City, smack dab in those endless waves of grain. America's breadbasket. But also, it's Tornado Alley.
Oh my goodness.
On the outskirts, at a classic old farmhouse, the typical holiday ritual is well underway. That's Becky Carter putting pork tenderloin on the grill.
I like that top part a little crisp, and then the inside's real tender. You know, you kind of sear the juices into it.
The retired correctional officer has lived here for nearly 25 years. While she grills, her family works up their appetites, tossing washers and navigating some wickets, sticky,
Oh, buddy!
and otherwise. Oddly, it seems like deja vu to 5 months prior and another holiday, Christmas.
We ended up out in the yard playing yard games all day long, and I mean, just like it being 70 degrees, not even jacket weather, I don't think, that day.
Now, you should know Becky is an armchair expert on all things meteorological.
I would say more of a weather nerd.
It's a lifelong passion.
Not just my weather, I like all kinds of weather. You know, special attention to spring, May and June, tornado weather.
So naturally, on Christmas morning, Becky was at her computer watching the weather on her MyRadar app. She saw tornado weather heading in her direction.
The air temperature in Larned was in the low 60s that day. It's typically in the low 40s.
Leslie Hudson is the digital meteorologist at MyRadar.
They were not anticipating this powerful system to move into play, but this area that you see focused here, where the cold and the warm clash together, that's where the severe weather almost invariably happens.
Noon, 12:30 on Christmas Day, the storm comes in. I mean, it just blew in. My house shook. It was shaking. I suppose it lasted 5-6 minutes, maybe.
Turns out it was a tornado. Not a big one, but a twister just the same.
About halfway through the storm, you know, I thought maybe we should have gone to the basement, but we didn't.
There were 7 tornadoes that touched down in Kansas and Nebraska that day. Most of those storms were EF0s and EF1s, something that we are not typically talking about in the month of December in the Central Plains.
Becky was blown away by what was blown away. What did it hit?
I came in and it raised everything up, and then it blew out the walls to the garage and the barn, and this should all be over on this side. Granary I have, it just got picked up and moved. This was a round frying pan at one time.
The whole darn thing seemed weird to Becky. But would a professional weather nerd agree? Scotty, let's beam in Radley Horton.
I'm a research scientist at Columbia University's Center for Climate Systems Research, part of the Earth Institute.
Dr. Horton, please give us your 101 lesson on what makes a tornado.
Near the surface, we need warm, moist air,
Pay attention, there may be a quiz later.
combined with cold air higher in the atmosphere. When you have a very warm surface and cold upper atmosphere, that warm air wants to rise. As it rises, it expands and cools. The moisture has to fall out, which actually causes more warming. This is a runaway process that can give us rapidly rising air.
That rising air can take rotating columns of wind near the ground and start to bend them upward.
If there's an additional ingredient of wind shear, there can be an introduced tilt, a kind of spin.
Finally, a downdraft of cool air brings the rotating column to the ground and concentrates the rising warm air.
When you put all those things together, you have the right recipe for a powerful tornado. Spring is the perfect time for that.
Note he did not mention winter. So,
Who would think Christmas Day, a tornado? I don't know. It's just one of the strangest things.
but wait, there's more.
I just got done cleaning up from the tornado and the ice storm hit.
It was January 14th.
This ice event started out in eastern Colorado, but impacted all the way over to Washington, D.C. over the course of the next 4 to 5 days.
My trees were pretty weak already from the tornado coming through. And then when the ice storm hit, I mean, you're talking total destruction.
Ice storms happen when a layer of warm, moist air is sandwiched between two layers of cold air.
The Central Plains is not a place that taps into warm Gulf air in the month of January. So it was an unusual pattern that created this big rain event, which turned into a big ice event.
Isn't he cute?
Mm-hmm.
You want to pet him?
Yeah.
Just lightly.
All of this has led our armchair meteorologist, our lifelong weather nerd, to an inescapable conclusion about climate change.
I believe it's real. I think the seasons are different. I think storms are more violent.
Paging Dr. Horton.
We do expect the upper ocean to warm. That's potentially more fuel for these severe storms that can turn into tornadoes. On the other hand, what's going to happen to the source of cold air? We can imagine with climate change that we may get less of that upper air that's very cool. So when we put those two things together, very hard to say what's going to happen to tornadoes.
People like Becky want those dots connected.
I mean, I just find it fascinating. And I respect it, you know. I don't fear it, really. I respect it.
Holy smoke, look at that!
And the next time she sees this, she says she's heading for the basement. These days, the heartland is Tornado Alley, no matter the season. For MyRadar, I'm Miles O'Brien in Larned, Kansas.